Where are the boundaries of areas? Specifically to this project, where within Cathays are the boundaries to other districts? Towards the south of Cathays, where is the edge of the city centre evident? To answer these questions, we performed a drift of the area and used qualitative research methods such as ethnography and interviews. We made some interesting findings and noticed that the use and types of building can be a key indicator into the boundaries of areas. Cathays was formed in 1875 in the north of Cardiff, making it one of the city's oldest districts. Originally farmland, Cathays was almost completely rural at the time of it becoming a suburb, and in the relatively small period of the following 25 years after 1875, it became the Cathays we know today. Only two farms survived the turn of the century, Allen's Bank and Weedle, and by 1914 even these had been reduced to road names. The civic centre in Cathays began to develop around the start of the 20th century when the 3rd Marquess of Bute sold a large piece of land to Cardiff Council so they could build a new town hall. He imposed strict regulations on this land so that it could only be used for civic, cultural and educational purposes. The City Hall was completed in 1905, just in time for Cardiff to be granted city status. From here, many new buildings were erected, forming the magnificent civic centre we know today. In 1909, several Cardiff University buildings relocated to Cathays Park, and similarly, large public buildings such as the National Museum of Wales, built in 1927, and Welsh National War Memorial, built in 1928, were located there.
Today, Cathays is mainly known as a suburb featuring a disproportionately high number of students due to its proximity to the university buildings. However, a Victorian feel is still present, largely because of the type of housing. The many businesses in the area are often small businesses and family-based. Despite the constant development since the early 20th century, there still remain areas of green in Cathays, such as Bute and Cathays Park. These are covered in greater detail from our own research finding on Cathays today, which we will now move on to.
Before starting the drift, we were already expecting to see a noticeable difference between the two investigated areas, especially in types of buildings, people, and the uses of buildings and the materials of buildings. We started our drift at the end of Rimney Street, leading on to Salisbury Road. The first thing we noticed was the Vulcan Pub, a popular student service offering simple yet established food. Heavily advertised here were the discounts on food and drink available using the V card and other daily offers. These deals can also be seen in a range of other services encountered along our drift, such as the Spice Corner, which is a restaurant in Salisbury Road, which offers a 20% discount with a student card, Gassy Jack's, and the Woodville, both pubs in Salisbury Road and Woodville Road. We noticed on all these pubs that the interior slogans and advertising are punchy, loud and bold, attempting to appeal towards and attract students. This was backed up by an interview along Salisbury Road where a student said, the offers and promotions are clearly aimed at students. As we walk to the junction between Salisbury Road and Miskin Street, there is an array of specialist local shops such as Forlet, a student letting service on Salisbury Road, and opposite Coco Gorillas, there is a small block of apartments aimed at very young professionals who want to enjoy the student-based services in and around Cathays. Along Miskin Street, we encountered the long linear rows of Victorian terraced housing. These houses are mostly 3-tiered student houses. A lot have satellite dishes and letting agency signs outside. The general feel to the exterior of these houses is untidiness, unpleasant and dirty. These feelings are echoed in the whole Cathays area as there is a lack of will to make it clean as, according to students, it is livable. The Students' Union is the beacon along with the university buildings opposite it, which has made a lot of housing in Cathays into student housing. The proximity to these buildings creates the market for this student housing. Consequently, from this, the splurges of pubs, local shops and services, small supermarkets and fast food services have sprung up all over Cathays to cater towards the students.
From the Students' Union, we walk towards the Woodville, and then along the crossroads where the Cardiff University Law, Humanities, Arts and Social Science Library is located. The first observation is about the two billboards opposite the Woodville that advertise a computer game and Sky, the internet and telecommunications company, both of which were aimed towards students. Although throughout Cathays we saw many young people carrying bags, books and files, this greatly increased at the crossroads. This is because of the large amount of student facilities located here, which continued in the form of the Student Support Centre, the gym, and the front of the Students' Union as we walked along Park Place towards the city centre. Along Park Place, the buildings turned into terrace housing, which has been converted into offices for local businesses such as solicitors, law firms, a jewellery designer and a NatWest bank. This change from pubs and local services to more professional services is echoed by Cardiff's National Museum and the City Hall opposite. The final piece of student influence is the Cardiff Arts Institute, which provides student nights and follows the pattern in terms of previous mentioned pubs regarding discounts, food, drink and style. The roads which signify the main divide between the two contrasting districts at the Cathays and the city centre are the Boulevard de Nantes and Stuttgarter Strasse. Boulevard de Nantes runs behind the park situated in front of the museum and City Hall, separating these more cultural aspects of Cathays from the retail and consumer-orientated areas of the city centre. The south side of Boulevard de Nantes is home to more entertainment and consumer-orientated experiences, such as the shops along Queen Street, the New Theatre, and the clubs along Greyfriars Road. This road then connects to Stuttgarter Strasse, which does a similar job of separating the two areas. Like Boulevard de Nantes, the Cathays side contains residential buildings and cultural ones such as the church, and the city centre side has shops and restaurants. It is not just a visual division of a large road, which can be difficult to cross. It is a more mental division, which divides land use, attitudes and feelings of individuals either sides. For us, we feel more secure on the city centre side, whereas the Cathays area is more well known for its crime and therefore makes us more insecure. As you cross the boundary between the two areas, you can feel a difference in atmosphere. For one, in Cathays you can feel it being quiet and more relaxed, whereas the city centre is busy and loud, with various noises which give it its character. Many areas and districts in Cardiff are separated by major junctions or train tracks, such as that between Cathays and Roath on its east side. But this is a different case, where this one road signifies a divide for many people.
We move on to Queen Street, which has been pedestrianised since 1974. This highlights an interesting contrast from the neighbouring Stuttgartstrasse, which is so busy it took us about 5 minutes to cross. Land use along Queen Street is heavily dominated by retail. The first shop we come to is a big Sainsbury's on the corner of the road, although as we walk the street, we notice the dominance of clothes retail. The shop fronts are modern and stylish, following the redevelopment of much of the city centre in the 70s and 80s. We come to the Cardiff Capitol Centre, which has been there since 1990, although it underwent a £10 million refurbishment in 1999. It advertises itself as Cardiff's premier shopping destination, with tenants consisting largely of upmarket clothing brands. As we move along Queen Street, we notice an increased number of tertiary industries, such as banks and travel agents, which contrast the corner shops and takeaways of Salisbury Road. Eventually, we find ourselves face to face with the colossal St David's shopping centre, which is designed to cater for everybody's shopping needs, whether it be food, clothes, sports equipment, homeware, or even restaurants. St David's 1 has been there since 1982. And it wasn't until 2009 that St David's 2 was added. Between the two of them, there is more retail space than the whole of Newport or even Swansea. The shopping centre is a regional attraction and is always busy. The range of retail available, along with the sheer scale of the centre, encourages diversity by bringing in people of all ages, social groups and income levels. The city centre itself is enclosed by the River Taff and the railway lines, which is what makes the area so accessible.
Boulevard de Nantes is the main road that divides the housing in Cathays and the medium-rise and high-rise mixed-use buildings. These buildings include a mix of tertiary industry such as businesses, law firms, offices to let and charities, as well as parking. As we circled down to Queen Street, there was a dynamic change in the types of people as well as a higher density. People were carrying shopping, wore different varieties of clothing such as suits and range in ethnicity and age. This is a result of the multi-diverse shops, services and offices that appeal towards everyone. The shops themselves range from banks such as HSBC to well-known clothing retailers like Marks and Spencer's. This is a vast change from the local businesses in Cathays. Greggs, the fast food shop, and Sainsbury's, the supermarket, are the only two businesses that are in both Cathays and the city centre, as they are marketed towards all types of people. All of these factors determined that we were clearly in the city centre.
On a broader level, there are some additional barriers of the city centre and Cathays that are formed naturally. In particular, the River Taff blocks growth of the city centre towards the east, and the railway lines contained to the west. These boundaries are also largely applicable to Cathays. From our drift and the quality of research gained, we have reached the verdict that the main boundary between Cathays and the city centre is the main road, Boulevard de Nantes. This point marks a clear division between the Victorian-style housing seen in Cathays and the commercial-used buildings in the city centre. Our research shows that some people saw the boundary between Cathays and the city centre as being at different points. A Cardiff University student said how he saw the church to the side of Boulevard de Nantes as the boundary point. Similarly, a city centre shopper described how she viewed the bridge just past St Geneth Hall as a boundary. However, the proximity of these to Boulevard de Nantes make them relatively insignificant differences and show that our claim of Boulevard de Nantes as being a main boundary line is a good indicator.